letting me know that. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is workspaces in Illustrator. And this is something that I find the more I've used my own custom workspaces, the more I think it helps my workflow. I work a lot faster this way. So just to start us off, I'll show you the workspace that I'm working in right now. If you go up to the top of the Illustrator window here over to the right, there's a little icon here for workspaces. And in this menu, it's divided into 3 sections. So at the very top, we have custom workspaces. And then below that, we have all workspaces that Illustrator just includes with your download of Illustrator. And then below that are just some actions that you can take with workspaces. So what I have right here is checked my sort of standard workspace that I use, and I've used it for years. I just sort of update it every once in a while and change it a little bit. But what a workspace entails, or what it includes in Illustrator, are panels down the right-hand side typically, but you don't have to have your panels on the right side. And then a toolbar on the left-hand side, and very often this control bar across the top. I'm going to turn off the guides there. Okay, so all of these things, and however you decide to arrange them, is something that you can save as a custom workspace. So for example, when I'm working, I work on illustrations a lot. So I want my color panel forward here. I want my swatches panel forward. Then I have brushes and symbols. This is a very traditional panel arrangement in Illustrator. And my layers are down here. And then I like it that I have all of these little icons here that are fly out panels. So when I need my appearance panel, I can click on that icon. If I need my stroke panel, I can click on that. And so all of those are here, maybe a little bit less used, but very easy for me to just click on the icon and have the pop out come for the panel. And then if you start dragging these out or working with them in a different way or opening up other panels while you're working, you can always go to this menu again and just say, I want to reset my workspace. So this is my custom Laura CC 2021, and it just puts it all back the way you had it. So it's a really nice, efficient way to work. Some of my other workspaces that I use, and I'm going to put screenshots of these examples in sneak peeks in my free course on Teachable, if you want to reference these later and sort of build your own if you like the ideas that I have here. Appearance is another one that I use. So I could be working very happily here in my typical workspace and then just jump right over to appearance because I'm working on this file, maybe where I just need to start drilling down into the layers, being able to select individual objects here, and then be able to look at them in the appearance panel and get all of that information about this. So I can see this is a mesh. This object has a multiply blending mode applied to it, and so forth. So I use my appearance workspace for inspecting the art that I'm working on. And that may only be something I need to do, a couple of times while I'm working on a project, that I have this workspace ready for that. Another one that I've played around with, and I change this one a lot, is gradients, so that I have a gradient panel that's really big and access to my color swatches like that. Another one that I have is my Astute Graphics Workspace. And one of the things I really like about this is that Astute Graphics plugins, there's a lot of them, and I don't always recognize the little icons like I do with the Illustrator panels that I've been using forever. So I have it set up here so that this column is wide and I can see the name of every one of these, and that helps me to better find them. And if you've noticed, what's happening when I'm changing workspaces is my tool panel is also changing. So that's a part of a custom workspace as well. So if you are wanting to create a workspace like this, just know that these columns of icons like this You can stretch them, make them wider. So this is the typical way of just displaying collapsed panels. But if you use your mouse here, you can just sort of stretch it out, this column, and leave them like this so that you can see the names of everything. All right, so now what I'm going to do is just, let's go back to what Illustrator offers as sort of their basic workspace, and that is the Essentials workspace. So when I click on this, excuse me, it takes you to the Properties panel on the right-hand side, which is a great home base for working in Illustrator. This panel is just good because anything that you click on, you will have sort of an array of options here, and it just changes contextually, based on what you have selected in your file. If you have nothing selected, you'll see some of those sort of setup things that you need in Illustrator, like rulers and guides and snapping behavior, and even preferences here. So the Essentials workspace in Illustrator, the basic workspace, starts you out with a Properties panel on the right. And on the left, it has a basic toolbar. All right, so let me go through now and just sort of tell you about a little bit about how these panels function. So when you want to set up your own workspace, you'll see all of the options that you have. So let's see. I'm going to go to, for example, let me go and I'll choose tracing. So this is an Illustrator workspace, and oh, it looks like I've been playing with that. Let me reset that. So when you have a arrangement and it's been sort of taken apart, you can always go to the reset option down here on the menu, and that just resets it. So this tracing workspace that Illustrator provides has the image trace panel right here behind the properties panel, and then it has a bunch of different panels right here. I'm going to go ahead, let's see, I'll take out the brushes panel, and the buttons across the top are, this X closes the panel. The double arrow here collapses the panel to an icon like that. I'm going to find a panel here that has another button on it that I want to show you. The stroke panel is a good example of this. It has this little double arrow right here, and when you click on this, it just gives you various states of the stroke panel, so that in the final state you see all of the options available, and then it just sort of collapses up like that. So that's what that double arrow is for. And then there's always a little menu here that has options. So it changes depending on which panel you're looking at. In the case of the stroke panel, this is a pretty brief menu here, just hide options. In the case of the appearance panel, however, that menu has a lot more options in it. So it's always good to look at that menu. And one of the things that option menu can get you when you're working with setting up a workspace, let me go to the window menu. Now the window menu is the home for all of these panels. So if there's anything that you don't currently have and you want to add it, you go to the window menu to get it. So for example, I'm going to go down here and get the swatches panel out. So important. And let's see, it's flown over to my other screen. Let me bring it over here. Now, when you go and you pull this open and you go here to the options menu, one of the options that you'll find here is a display option. So do I want large thumbnails? Do I want medium thumbnails? Small thumbnails, so I can see a ton. I actually like them really big, but you can also have a list view and all of that. These are also things that will be saved with your custom workspace. So if I like a large thumbnail view, I'm going to set this, and then I'm going to take, for example, let's say I want my swatches panel. I'm going to take it away from this little grouping right here because I don't want any of these. And then I'm just going to take this, and let's say I want it in this column with all of my little icon flyout panels. I'll just dock it right there. And you see when you're docking, you get these little blue highlights. So if I release here, now it's a part of this column. I can take it out and I can put it in its own row. So I see this big blue vertical docking line here. Now it's got its own column. If I want to save the workspace so that this panel is open like this, then I need to make sure that I open the panel, and then I say, okay, everything is just like I want it right now. I've got my large view swatches. I've got the swatches panel wide open. And then you just go over here to the workspaces menu to save this workspace. So I'm going to go here and click on new workspace. So now I'm going to save this new workspace. I'm just going to call it test. Click OK. And now I have test right here in my custom workspaces. So from here, I can make changes to this. Let's go back to the window menu. And for this one, I'll get out the pattern options panel. So I can decide, okay, well, maybe I want the pattern options panel over here on the left-hand side. Let me close the swatches panel down, and I'll collapse the pattern options panel, and I'll drag this to sort of skinny it up there. And so this could be an option for a workspace. I could have just this little flyout of the pattern options panel here available for me whenever I want it. So when you make a change like this and you want to overwrite the previous saved workspace, then you just go here to this menu and then go down to new workspace, just like where we were before, and give it the same name. So let me see, I don't know if I capitalized it. And it shows you here that name already exists, and clicking OK will overwrite. So that's fine with me. That's what I'm intending to do. So I'm just going to click OK. And now the test workspace has been updated to include this little icon over here, flyout for the pattern options panel. All right. So I hope everybody is hanging with me so far. Do you have any questions about anything that I've said so far? And while I'm awaiting questions, I'm going to look at my notes here because I have more things I want to tell you about this, and I just want to make sure that I've got everything in order here. So we do know that you can, open panels from the window menu, drag them around and dock them however you want to. Another way of docking panels, so we've already sort of looked at docking panels by dragging them around. Let's say, like, for example, we have the properties panel, the image trace panel, and the libraries panel in this sort of horizontal, like, file folder kind of arrangement. So that's another way of docking panels. So for example, if I wanted to put the gradient panel, I'm going to drag this out, open it up. If I want this tab to be docked with swatches, all I need to do is just drag this right in here. You see the whole panel sort of lights up with a highlight all the way around it. And there it is. So now I've docked this in this horizontal way. And you'll notice when you collapse panels like this, you'll see that dividing line there includes those two panels. Over here, I have all of these panels sort of in their individual, flyouts. So if I fly this one out here, the appearance panel, you don't see anything docked behind it. But right here, the info panel has the attributes panel docked behind it. So that's another way of docking. All right. Let's see. Anything else? We've talked about resetting. So of course, yeah, when you have our test, and I've done a lot to sort of mess with it, I want to go to reset test, and that just puts everything back where I had it. Another thing that you can save in your panel arrangement in your workspace are your toolbars. And you can even have, for example, a set of tear-off tools. So right here in my toolbar on the left, I'm just clicking on the little triangle next to it, which shows you that there are tools underneath. And if I click on this bar on the right here, this becomes a tear-off tool panel. So if I want to have my just my shape tools sort of always there and available, I can go ahead, reset, let's see, new workspace.
Manny, stop.
And call this test. Is somebody asking a question? I might just go ahead and hit that mute button. Okay, name already exists, and then clicking OK will overwrite. So I'm going to go ahead, click OK, and now this panel is going to be part of this workspace. Okay, so more about tools. Tools are also located in the window menu, right here under Toolbars. And in Illustrator, you can customize your toolbar as well. So in this current workspace that we've set up, as you can see, the checkbox is right here next to basics. So this is the basic set of tools that Illustrator gives you. And then if you move over to advanced, we'll see what happens there. We have a much broader array of tools. And because I have Astute Graphics plugins installed, I'm also seeing extra tools down here that are included in the Illustrator Advanced toolbar. Now I have here Advanced, Basic. We've looked at both of those. And then this is my toolbar. And what I've done, and it comes out on another window, so I'm bringing it in here. What I've done here is sort of made my toolbar of the tools that I use the most, and even sort of the stack of tools that I like. So I've gone in here, for example, under the shape tools, you can see mine are the rectangle tool. Actually, I think these are normal shape tools. Let's see. Let me go ahead and click on that. I'm trying to think of what I've done to customize it here. Some of the things I've done is just taken out things that I already use shortcuts for, like the zoom tool. I don't have that in this toolbar. Another tool that I have taken out of this toolbar is, what is it? The perspective grid tool. Has anybody ever clicked on that and just you're thrown into perspective grid mode? And that can be a little surprising. I already know that tool is there, so I can always go back and get it, but I don't want it here on my toolbar. So you can set up a custom toolbar and then just take this, advanced toolbar here that Illustrator gives you, click on the X, throw it away, and dock your toolbar back over here. And now you've added your custom toolbar to your workspace. And then you would just go back and save it again. And you can just use these arrows to make it a single column or a double column. So how do you do that? How do you set up a tool panel like this? Well, if you see these little 3-dot menu down here at the bottom, Edit Toolbar, you can click on that and it gives you a menu of tools. So this is what I would use to edit my custom toolbar. And there's a little flyout here that gives you other options. Let me go back and go to the window menu. I can also, just like with Workspaces, say new toolbar. And I'll call this Untitled 2. And it gives you, and I know it's on another screen here and it's so tiny. Let me go get that. All right. So here is the baby toolbar that doesn't have any tools on it. And if I click here, now I can see all the tools. And so this is how I create a custom toolbar. They're organized here so that you can see the sort of the stacking that Illustrator has sort of always had for the tools that sort of belong together. And also I'm seeing a lot of tools like under my selection tool, I have other tools. Those are from Astute Graphics. Let's see, a good example here is the pen tool, because everything that comes underneath the pen tool, the anchor point tool, the delete anchor point, and the anchor point tool, those are all crucial and they all belong together. So let's say I want to add this grouping here, and maybe I'm not going to add the Astute Graphics ink scribe right now. If I hold down the shift key, just like you select things anywhere else, I select all of these tools. And now I'm just going to drag them into this empty space there. And then I'll go down here and I'll get my line segment tool and all of these tools that go with it. And I'll select and drag that little grouping here, and I can put it right here below that. Or let me see if I can get that into this sort of double column arrangement. And then it's a little easier to see, you know, how when you drag, you know, where you're placing them. So if I have the curvature tool here and I decide, okay, I think I want to put the ink scribe tool underneath it, then you just take it and grab it and make sure that the highlight is happening, the blue box around the curvature tool, let go, and now it's underneath there. And I can see it underneath the curvature tool. Let me go ahead and close that. Go back to my menu here, and then, you know, just keep going like this. Grab the gradient tool, put it in its space like that. So this is a great way of kind of getting everything set up like you want it. And then, of course, take out the old toolbar, shut it down, close it with the little X, and put this toolbar over here in its place. Let me take that out, close it. And then this workspace that I've been working on, that's called test, I can go back to new workspace, call it test. We're overwriting it, and now that's a part of my workspace. Okay, so we've talked about the toolbars, we've talked about the panels. I think the one thing we haven't talked about is this panel across the top, which is called the control panel, and I use this a lot. If you start out here using the Essentials workspace, Illustrator takes that away from you because a lot of those options are available in the properties panel. But even still, there are still options in that control bar that I really want to have. And so I go right here in the window menu to control and click to turn that on. And then it always appears here at the top. Of course, it's got a little tread on it, meaning, you know, it's movable. You can put it at the bottom of your screen if you want to. And then another option here is there's an options menu on the far right side of it. And you can see all of the things that are available here. Now, whether or not they are going to appear on the control bar has to do with what you have selected at any given moment. And then another thing that kind of constrains that is, you know, how big is your screen? What resolution do you have it set at? So really how much of this stuff can fit there. So if you want, you can uncheck some of these and then save that control bar in that state and save it as part of your workspace. So it's incredibly versatile, and I think just really, really useful to be able to switch workspaces like this. And I find myself switching workspaces continuously as I work, just to get the things. It's so nice to be able to say, I really want, you know, a layers panel for this particular part of the job I'm working on that's really big and front and center like that. So that's why I love to use these. So let me see, does anybody have any questions? Where are we at? We're about halfway through right now, and I have some question demonstrations that I want to do. Somebody has sent me some really good questions. But before I jump into that, let me make sure I'm going to look at my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything that I wanted to tell you about Workspaces. And in the meantime, you know, if you want, just jump into the chat box and let me know if you have a question. And if you look there, I have links on how to stay in touch with me and find my website and all that good stuff. So let's see, what have we got here? I'm looking. Yeah, it looks like I got it. Looks like we're through pretty much most of those options. But if you have a question about it, please let me know. I'm looking here in the window menu to make sure I didn't really miss anything. One thing, now that I think about it, that I did tell you was what in my email was, what is my favorite panel? And, you know, for a long time, I would have answered the appearance panel because, you know, I think it always has been sort of underutilized, and I find it is just to be incredibly useful for diagnosing issues in your files, but also just for adding effects. It's just a real kind of a central panel to Illustrator. But one panel that I have really kind of enjoyed using more lately is the document info panel. So let me see. If I go here, I have another, let me open a file here. See if this is it. Let's see if I can, this might not be the right file. Yeah, here's one. I was working with this recently, and you can see when I have it highlighted with my white arrow tool, it has a whole bunch of anchor points, and I'm a little obsessed with anchor points and trying to reduce complexity in my files. So one panel that I really like for this purpose is if I go to the window menu and I get out the document info panel. So there's two info panels. One is right here. It's called info. And then there's another one here called document info. And if I get this panel out and I make sure that I switch my options here to objects, then I can just see immediately when I have something selected that it has 1,044 anchor points. And maybe I want, to have this simplified because I'm going to use it in a pattern and I'm going to repeat it over and over again. So I will want to reduce the number of anchor points. So it's always good to have this little bit of information here. So the document info panel is good for that. If I wanted to, I could just go over here to Astute Graphics and Vector First Aid and click on this and let it remove anchor points. And then if I go back here to the document info panel, I can see now I have 57 anchor points if I look right there. So I removed almost 1,000 anchor points, and I like having this little bit of information there. So that's one of my favorite panels. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to say goodbye, but you're on my email list. So if I do another one of these, which I probably will, I will let you know when it's happening. And I just want to say have a great day and thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it.